there's been some shock news if you're a Hollyoaks fan, some news that if you are a particular character's like Stan, for example, I know Danny May will be kicking and screaming about this one, as it was initially reported in The Sun, but followed up through on Digital Spy saying Hollyoaks, Jamie Lomas to leave Warren Fox role. Now, this is a pretty big deal, but it's not so much of a surprise as, I mean, first I should say Warren comes and goes every now and then. Like, he's people write that he's been on the show since 2016, but he's been like off and on again in between that anyways. Like, he started in 2006 to 09, joined back in 2010, 2011, came back in 2016, left in 2017, brief appearances between 2018 and 2019, and then came back fully in 2020. Like, you know, he's as a character generally just comes and goes. And yeah, you know, it's a shame because Warren is probably one of the most popular soap characters, and he's up there as one of the like best like hard men of soap. You know, I'd even say that like close towards Kane Dingle in that conversation. I mean, even people have the take that Phil Mitchell's been a lousy imitation of Warren Fox for the last couple of years, and initially I said no, but through time I kind of went, you know what, yeah, he is actually. Like, Warren actually has more depth than Phil does in this sense. But yeah, I'll just read some more of the article and then I'll get into why it's a bit like why it makes sense, but it's also not that much of a surprise. I will just reiterate the background information that in September, I believe it is September, the episodes will be cut from 5 episodes to 3, and obviously Channel 4 like had to cut a lot of the, like, I believe it's like 145 staff members or something. 135 jobs. So obviously now we're having to cut costs, having to save money while still trying to produce the same similar thing. And I don't think it's all bad news. I don't think it's all doom and gloom, because if you can just release like a solid hour of stuff a week, it's honestly be a breath of fresh air in a sense. You know, you cut some of the fat, you trim some of the bloat, and then ultimately you get a bit more of a concrete, like, flowing show. And I think there will be more cuts. I think there will be some more people who aren't willing to stay. But I do feel like some characters who have basically been in it for the fucking long haul, I feel like they'll mostly stay, you know. I feel like Mercedes will stay. I feel like Steve will stay. I feel like John Paul will stay. Like, I feel like a bulk of the cast will stay. And I think they will, like, steer the ship. And once, you know, obviously if it gets axed or if it manages to survive this, obviously they'll be revered as fucking heroes for doing it. But it's also not so much of a thing, because I did mention that Warren never really stayed for that long, and in fact this is his longest stint in the show, being 4 years, because he's been on and off over the years as a whole. And like, I get it, I understand, and it will be quite sad. But we just, as I said before, we have to make these fucking decisions. But I'll read some more of the article. It was initially reported in The Sun, so I have to fucking go over there. It says, the actor made the decision to leave this after bosses announced that September episodes will be cut from 5 to 3 with a loss of 135 jobs. Line Pictures, who makes the soap for Channel 4, opened the consultation period and asked those who want to go to stick their hands up. Jamie, 48, decided it was time for him to go and told his bosses last week that he'll be leaving at the end of his current contract. And it said he told bosses last week and they're already working on his exit storyline. The door will be left open, as it's hoped that he'll be back as Warren Fox one day. I do believe so. I do think he will be back on the show eventually, but yeah, ultimately we just have to let it be. Sometimes you have to let some of these characters go. The show has survived without Warren Fox before. It'll survive without Warren Fox again. And I do understand the character a bit more now. I like him, and obviously it's heading up this big storyline with the Worlds Collide, where Steve ended up killing Ella, who Warren like it was Warren's daughter that he never knew he had. Which, you know, I've got my discrepancies with this because I still don't. Basically, I like Steve more than I like Warren, so I'm not as on Warren's side because he had the choice to get to know her, but he never did. And I know he's haunted by the guilt of doing that, but still, it's not his. I mean, yeah, sure, it's his fault that your daughter's dead, but you should have got to know her more. And it feels like they're making it as if like Warren was like this actually a secretly really good dad, but obviously he missed out on so much. That is the angle. And I think that eventually, like, if they really want him to be gone, I wouldn't be surprised if like Felix and Mercedes settle back down together and Warren can't hack it, and you know, Warren leaves with his kid, with Mercedes. It's just there's not much room for Warren anymore on the show. Well, there always will be. There always is that allowed space for Warren Fox, but ultimately, I think it's time. I do think it's time. And it is a shame, but, you know, the door is being left open. I look forward to seeing what he does outside of the show. I think it'll be interesting to see where he goes. And like I said, probably expect a couple more axes to come. Like, maybe some of the older characters, maybe they're not gonna maybe they're not gonna come back at all. Like, you know, it's always a bit of a risk. But yeah, no, solid. There we are. Warren Fox is leaving. It's a big shame, but ultimately we just need to, you know, accept the news and actively wait to see what happens. Be pretty fun and pretty exciting. But yeah, where else does it go from here? Is there anything else I can really add to this? I suppose I will just say I feel like Warren's character over the last couple of years has been fairly underwhelming, I would argue. I don't think he's been used in his like full capacity. Obviously, he kind of has the like Mick Carter type treatment where he really does a good job of like, I don't know, like you would always get storylines. I'd argue he'd always get the big character storylines, and you know, he got a bunch. He got the stuff with Fergus, which I think as a whole was just a write-off and very weird, where you take Warren Fox being a lapdog. And then you have his terrible relationship with Maxine, which was never going to work. And then you have his car crash feud with now Felix and Mercedes. You have the stuff where he meets Norma, which is nice and pretty cool. And it's a good connection, and I do like it. And I do hope that Norma stays, even if Warren goes. You had all the Cormac and the Brody and the Sienna stuff, which, yeah, not so much of a fan. Then he starts to come back as a villain. And then recently him being a shit dad and his affair with Mercedes. Like, I think the last storyline's been really good, but like all the stuff in between for the last couple of years, like, I don't know, man. I really not particularly interested in it. Yeah. So I think ultimately it was interesting to say, but it's not been his best work for a while. I can imagine him getting not so much to do. Has generally kind of wore on him, and I think it's fine. And I think he won't be upset with his recent stint, but you know, if things are changing, you know, where are you going to find yourself after the shuffle? It's always a question in this. And, you know, he's 48. He's played Warren Fox for a total of what, like, 3, 4, 5, about like 9 or 10 years, all in all, over 1,000 episodes of appearances. Like, ultimately, if there's any time to leave the show and try to do more and get more roles and not just be seen as Warren Fox, I think it's about time. Like I said, I don't think Mercedes will leave. I don't think too many others will leave. But like, I think it'll be, yeah, I don't know. I just don't think that a lot of these other main characters will leave. I think people are kind of thrilled to actively be involved in Hollyoaks and content to still be there. So, like I said, it's bad news, and maybe I didn't have the most to fucking add to this. Unfortunately, you know, Warren Fox isn't my favorite. I've only really just started to understand Warren, but my like for other characters is fucking different. Like, you know, I prefer some of the more other long-running characters than Warren. But yeah, no, it is bad news for the show. You know, each time you lose a big character, you generally lose a bit of your identity, and it's always a bit of a risk to fully commit. But ultimately, if they want to leave, they gotta leave. If you don't appreciate it, they're probably gonna want to go. But what do you think? Is it another massive blow for Hollyoaks? I personally think they'll be fine without Warren. I respect what he does for the show, and I respect the aura. But I think Warren's a character who struggles. Like, I think as a character gets saturated through time, and I feel like just coming back for these one-off stints really keep the aura of the character surrounding him. But obviously time will tell. The door is being left open, so he's not gone forever. As long as the show still exists, and as long as the show gets out this rocky period, he's definitely coming back soon anyway. Maybe not soon, but he's definitely coming back sooner rather than later. But there we are. Yes. So Warren Fox is leaving Hollyoaks. Tell me what you think in the comment section down below. Are you sad? Are you happy? All the emotions. Tell me. Remember to leave a like, comment, and subscribe on the Watching Walford channel. And all in all, thank you for watching. Make sure to join me next time. See you then. Bye.